Welcome. My name's John. We're, day 3 of our Idaho extravaganza, if you will. I'm currently in Boise again, sitting in a parking lot waiting for Dana to get off work, and another day of adventuring. And let me tell you, it was busy. So don't leave me in a strange city with nothing to do, because I'll figure stuff out. So what I did was this morning I had seen that there was another museum that I wanted to go to. In fact, 2 more museums. The Idaho Military Museum, which was smaller but still pretty fun. They had a selection of aircraft and vehicles, but primarily the interior of the museum, the indoor portion of it, is more military displays, uniforms, things like that. I've got a couple pictures that I took that I can kind of go through. The cool part of it was some vehicles that they had out front. They had, World War, or not even World War II, I guess Korean War vintage, an ambulance similar to what you would have seen on the show MASH, as well as an M38 Jeep. If you're a nerd like me, you understand what an M38 is. It followed on. It was the next model after the Willys Jeep. Anyway, then I looked at some M113s, Vietnam era. M113 was a personnel carrier. Basically, before we had Bradleys, we had M113s. They were used in a variety of different platforms. There was communication vehicles, mobile mortar platforms, if you will, a variety of different applications. Sorry, I'm looking down. They had a really cool 1950s weapons carrier there, tracked weapons carrier, which I took a picture of. They had one of my favorite vehicles of all time. They actually had a duck. It's a 6-wheel drive, amphibious, basically think deuce and a half, 2.5 ton World War II era vehicle, but it was equipped with a boat hull, and so it would allow it to make amphibious landings and go over beaches. Sorry, I'm flipping through pictures. They had this is more my military era, maybe a little before. I think the Marines still had them in some quantity, but they had an M60 A1 main battle tank. They had an early model M1 Abrams, and then everyone's favorite from World War II. I guess it was classified as a medium tank, but the Sherman tank, which is the most produced tank of World War II and used by the Allies. They had a variety of jets there. I forget what this jet is specifically. I think it's an F-86. It's kind of one of those ones with the opening in the nose and kind of Korean War, 1950s vintage. There was a MiG-21 there, which again, another mass-produced. They shipped them all over the world. Soviet fighter primarily. Unknown where the origins of this were. And then we were right outside a Air National Guard base that was, I think, one of the last bases to have an F4 reconnaissance variant, basically a F4 that took pictures, essentially. And they had one of those that was a static display, so I got to check that out. After that, I got done. Dana and I did some stuff. Then I decided that one of the things I needed to see, and coincidentally, Dana's been here before too, and once I commented that I'd gone, she was very excited, because if you're in Boise, the old state penitentiary is located in an old part of Boise, which in and of itself is pretty cool to drive around. But this place looks very similar. A few years ago, Dana and I went to Alcatraz, and you can go through the blockhouses, and this is the same sort of thing. Obviously not as historically significant as Alcatraz. However, if you're spending any time in Boise, I highly recommend this museum. It's super cheap. In fact, everything I've done so far has been very inexpensive and budget friendly. The museum yesterday, I think it was $12 or $14. The Idaho Military Museum, I don't know why I'm struggling saying that, but anyway, that museum was free, and this one was $8, and I can't tell you the last time I spent $8 better, in that it was fun to go see this place, and they have it very well set up. You can do a self-guided tour and see, they've got plaques and a variety of signage kind of telling you which famous Idaho bad guys, wanted people were housed in the facility, and kind of a big timeline. I think it closed in like 1973. I mean, it shockingly recently closed to me, because this thing is so Old West, kind of 1800s in its construction. Whoops, I lost my pictures. But I went through, I took a variety of pictures kind of on the grounds, and with my dumb face and several of them, which is kind of fun. But it's, you know, I'm sure it wasn't this way back in the day, but the grounds are super well manicured. It has these mature rose bushes everywhere, so it's much more picturesque than I'm sure when they were actually operating with inmates in the prison. But I'm looking at a variety of pictures here, trying to, whoa, I went the wrong way on my phone. I'm swiping to try to remember all the cool stuff. But I did take several shots inside. Hopefully they turn out good enough for this video, of some of the blockhouses. You know, I guess maybe, I'm not a prison guard, so I don't know what the correct terminology is, but cell blocks, I guess. Anyway, these large, what I'm calling a blockhouse, is a single structure with 3 or 4 tiers of these tiny kind of one-man cells, and they have these catwalks in front of them, and they're all kind of stacked. It's literally like a movie set. It's preserved, but it's not restored. So the paint's peeling, and everything's rusty, and it made for what I'm hoping to be some very cool images. Anyway, like I said, that's what I had to do today on day 3. It was super fun. I enjoyed the museum, and then after the museum, Dana and I did some other stuff. It's later in the afternoon. It's almost 4:30, but and I'm going to try to throw this together tonight. But anyway, so after the museum, we had been in the Chidden portion of Boise, which, I don't know, if you're not from Boise, you probably don't know where that's at. I saw one of the coolest RV places. So it's kind of an overland RV store. One of them was kind of a pop-top trailer called an Opus, and all these trailers, like the Opus, is actually manufactured in Australia, but it has an independent suspension. It has an inflatable tent that comes up from the top, and they're super light. I think they're about 2,000 pounds, a little over 2,000 pounds. So basically towable by any vehicle. They had a interior that is very yacht-like, or marine in is how I would describe it, the way it's constructed. I saw one of those. Let's see, I looked at an XCO or KECO one, and then I looked at a UEV 440, and let me tell you, this thing is a military grade. It's how they're advertised. They're made somewhere in Arizona. They have this level of construction that I've never seen in any sort of trailer before. Everything is flush riveted, similar to an aircraft. It has pop-out tents. It had 2 different models that I looked at. One was the 440, and I believe the other was the 490. The 440 model, as the number might indicate, is a slightly smaller unit. However, the entry to it was really unique in that it has a rear spare tire carrier built onto the back, and then that swivels out of the way, and the door is kind of a clamshell, and you kind of climb through the back, and it's really a unique situation. The second one, the 490, let me double check that. I believe it's a UEV 490, has 2 doors. Both of them have exterior kitchens. They have awnings off both sides. The tops pop up, the front pops open to make kind of a tent area, like a tent trailer basically. And they're fully outfitted with independent suspension, and onboard air conditioners, air compressors, so that you can air it up and down independently to level the right and left of the trailer. I think the Opus has the same sort of setup, but it's really unique trailers. They were priced in the kind of $35,000 to $45,000 range, I believe, for those. I wasn't looking at prices too much. The two Opus ones I looked at, the ultralight, I think was $24,000, a little more basic, and the larger Opus, of which the pictures are of, is like $35,000. It's about $10,000 more. I really enjoyed that. I don't know if I ever would want to tow a trailer off-road. However, the salesman assured me that if you can drive your vehicle there, you can tow either of these trailers there. However, I just don't know if I want to tow a trailer. But it was a fun walk around, quick 20-30 minute, him demoing several things. I'm very intrigued by these. Anything you can do outside the trailer. All I wanted to do if I did tow a trailer would be to provide a covered place to sleep or maybe hang out. My prior experience with RVs is when I had a hard-sided RV. I hated it because it smelled bad because I cooked inside of it. And then when I had a tent trailer, I enjoyed that much more because most tent trailers, mine specifically, had a situation where you could put the gas stove and mount it on the exterior of the trailer with the awning up, and it just made more sense for us at the time. So that's kind of my thoughts on trailers. But anyway, like I said, I've had a full day. I hope you're well. I hope you enjoy this video, and stand by. We're going to make some more mediocre content. I really hope you enjoy this, and come back next week. Actually, come back in a couple days. I'm going to get home a little bit early, and I've been doing some thinking on my bumper project, so I may have some developments.